Welcome one, welcome all. Thank you for tuning in to Cedar Radio, your guide to films playing at the Art House for the week of February 21st to February 27th. I'm your host, Aaron Spears.
And I'm Dave Huffman, Director of Marketing for Cleveland Cinemas. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing And Then We Danced, The Assistant, and The Lodge.
Well, we always like to start off the show with a solid, enthusiastic recommendation, our Movie of the Week pick. So, Dave, what is your Movie of the Week pick for this week?
Well, I feel like that setup makes it sound like what I was supposed to recommend was a good movie, but what I'm going to recommend is generally considered one of the worst films of 2019 that I finally got caught up on.
Oh, is it the John Travolta one?
It is, yes. I finally watched The Fanatic by Fred Durst, Limp Bizkit, Fred Durst.
Wait.
And
is that true?
Starring John Travolta. Yeah, Fred Durst. It's his new film.
I just heard it was a crappy movie. I didn't look up who made it or anything. Okay.
And starring a now buffed up Devon Sawa. I hadn't seen him to realize that, kind of scrawny teen star Devon Sawa is now like this kind of beefy guy. So that's always funny whenever you see those kind of, the people that played nerds in like teen years kind of buffing up like Anthony Michael Hall did.
Yeah.
But it is as bonkers bad entertaining as everyone has led me to believe. So if you're looking for just a fun, bad movie, this one kind of hits it in all the right ways. Just bad decision after bad decision from John Travolta's performance, even though he is completely committed to it. So I admire that. It's just fundamentally flawed. So, there was no saving it at a certain point. And to the point where when they're driving in the car one time, like, the dad is like listening to Limp Bizkit talking about how great the music is. It's just so hilariously meta that you can't even ignore it. It was pretty entertainingly terrible. So yeah, check it out if you want to watch something really fun bad.
So it is that magical combination.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
okay.
It's like Showgirls. It's just a fun bad movie. So I enjoy when someone gets it so wrong that it's right. That one does it. And Aaron, please tell me you watched something good this week that you.
I was going to say we're balancing each other out pretty well this week. I was just looking up the Fanatic. It was like 18% or 18 on Metacritic. I was like, yikes.
Yeah.
I went to the other end because I rewatched American Factory, the documentary that just won Best Documentary.
Yeah, it's great.
It is really great, and a little bias going into any of their movies because I graduated from Wright State, and that's where Julia Reichert and Bogner taught for a bit. I didn't take any of their classes because I wasn't doing production, but they were teaching documentary there, which obviously is what they should be teaching. I've run into a couple people I've recommended it to who were like, that one about the factory. And like they say it with a tone where you're like, it's not a homework assignment kind of movie. Like it's a really interesting dynamic at play. And there's like a real narrative to it that you don't always get with a documentary. And I think one thing that really sells this one as opposed to other documentaries, I'm always on the lookout, I think you are too, with documentaries for like filmmakers who are kind of staging events so that it plays better to the camera or to their narrative they're trying to do. And there's just no way they would have been able to, nor would they, just knowing how they make films, would they be doing that, because there's just too much of a dynamic here and there's too many moving parts, and it's just sort of remarkable what they were actually even able to capture with a camera, and there's just no room for manipulation there.
Well, I was going to say, I heard an interview with her on NPR whenever the film was kind of coming out, and she was talking about they were really impressed with, they said they agreed to do the documentary, but only if they had, they were worried about the Chinese government having some sort of influence over elements of the film, and they were not going to do it if they weren't allowed to film everything that they wanted to. So there was absolutely none of the kind of staged kind of moments that you would have maybe kind of be afraid that the Chinese part of the storyline might have had some influence over, but they did not.
Right, or even if it was not even necessarily staging, but just like, you're not allowed to film that. You're got to cut that out. Like just the way that Chinese censors work, it's pretty intense. I guess maybe they were just like, who's going to watch this little American documentary? But either way, that's generally not how the Chinese censors work.
Right.
But yeah, it's a Chinese billionaire opens up a factory in Ohio, and it's kind of that fish out of water coworker kind of vibe. But you get the Dayton, Ohio example, but you also get, I can't remember what the town was in China they go to, but they also you see them visit a factory in China, and you get kind of the culture clash that happens. But at the same time, everybody that's working together realizes they're kind of in this together, in that classic worker struggle kind of thing. There's a scene in it that just had me in stitches where one of the American workers invites over a bunch of his Chinese coworkers, and they've never like fired a gun before. So this is like pretty rural area outside Dayton, and there's all these photographs of. I think he even invited him over for Thanksgiving, which is a pretty exclusively American holiday. And so it's just them like sitting around as coworkers, like eating a bunch of food and then shooting off guns, and everybody's clearly just having a great time. And it broke down so many kind of cultural stereotypes. I thought it was a really engaging scene. But
I agree that was funny, but it's not as funny as anything that happened in the first like 5 minutes of The Fanatic. That's all I'll say.
What is the plot on The Fanatics? I've only heard like it's a terrible movie. You got to see it. It's John Travolta doing his most awful best.
He plays a sort of autistic guy who's like an obsessed sort of autograph hound who is specifically obsessed with one star who he has an opportunity to meet and get something signed. And then, of course, whenever the star is not as friendly as he wanted him to be, things turn for the worst.
Of course.
That's all I'll say.
All right. Well, 2 recommendations for wildly different reasons, but both I'm gonna trust you on this one, Dave. Both worth your time, I would say.
I would say so. Yes, 2 of the most talked about films of the year. One in a good way, one in a bad way, but in a fun bad way.
So on to the new films coming this week to the theater. The first one up we have is And Then We Danced. This is written and directed by Levan Akin. This is a passionate coming-of-age tale set amidst the conservative confines of modern Tbilisi. The film follows Merab, a competitive dancer who is thrown off balance by the arrival of Irakli, a fellow male dancer with a rebellious streak. This film didn't quite make it that far, but it was the official Swedish entry to the Oscars this year. So this was the movie that the cultural board in Sweden said, this is the best of the best from Sweden this year. We're submitting it to the Oscars to hopefully get a Best Foreign Film nomination. Obviously, that didn't happen, and it went to Parasite, deservedly. But if you want to check out, some of the best Swedish films from this year, this is one of those.
Yeah, and I tend to love Scandinavian films, so I haven't seen this one yet, but I'm excited to see it. And the next film we're opening up is The Assistant, written and directed and edited by Kitty Green, which is my favorite new writer-director name, Kitty Green. This is a searing look at a day in the life of an assistant to a powerful executive. As Jane follows her daily routine, she grows increasingly aware of the insidious abuse that threatens every aspect of her position.
Welcome. Have a seat. Whatever's going on, you can tell me. That's what I'm here for. You're relatively new to the company.
I mean, I've been working here for nearly 2 months.
And you're under a lot of stress. Entry-level jobs in this industry are tough, right? Long hours? First one in, last one out.
Good night.
You're smart. You have to be smart. It's a tough job, but I can see that you've got what it takes.
I want those new pages before I get on the plane.
He promised them first thing.
Where are we at?
200K in 2 points.
That's bull.
Maybe you can put in a good word for you.
No, he'll hire externally. Listen, his schedule has shifted. Does 7 p.m. work?
Still at the hotel, or?
Yes. What?
This is turkey. I said chicken.
There's a girl waiting.
Oh, her. She's been here before. A few times.
What is it?
The wife. Say he's in an important meeting.
No, say he's in screening.
Where is he?
What did you say, son? What did you say? They told me you were smart.
I overreacted.
It was not my place to question your decision. I will not let you down again.
You know you can always come to us, right? Come to us first, okay?
The last 2 checks don't have a name or anything, just the dollar amount.
Ignore it.
Okay, and will he know what it's for?
Yep, he'll know.
I wouldn't sit there.
Never sit on the couch. Here and here, initial here, sign there.
Do I need a lawyer or something?
Do you have a lawyer?
What's happening? Where you go?
I was worried for this girl. I mean, they were just like laughing about it.
Can you deal with this?
Hi, why me? Who was that?
That? Wasting my time.
Your mom and I were excited for you. It's a great opportunity.
And this is kind of the film that some people are saying is kind of like the Harvey Weinstein inspired thriller.
Oh, you said his name. I'm gonna have to beep it out now in post-production.
Oh, that's right. We're not allowed to say his name. The man whose name we dare not speak.
Right.
But yeah, this is sort of like a Me Too thriller, if you will, about a young woman who finds herself at the bottom of the corporate ladder and what that means to an attractive young woman sometime is a very different thing than what it means to a young man starting in the same position.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't know if you've seen Kitty Green did a documentary a few years back called "Ukraine is Not a Brothel."
No, I did not, but I love that title.
Yeah, it's really it's an intense movie, but it follows the female or the feminist activist group Femen, Femen.
Okay,
you guys can look that up on Wikipedia if you want. But really interesting, very powerful activist group, kind of Eastern Europe for the most part. But this is her first Kitty Green, not part of Femen, just documenting them. This is her first narrative feature film. She's been doing exclusively documentary work, specifically focused on a lot of women's issues through her short but very interesting film career so far. So every time you make that jump from documentary to fictional narrative, I always find that, or we're going back and forth even too, I always find that kind of interesting and worth checking out. And we're also opening up this week The Lodge, the new film written and directed by Severin, Fiala, and Veronika, Franz. This is The Lodge follows a family who retreat to their remote winter cabin over the holidays. When the father is forced to abruptly depart for work, he leaves his children, Aiden and Mia, in the care of his new girlfriend.
So, how would you feel about going to the mountains for Christmas with Grace? She really wants to get to know you guys.
That's our mom's hat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You okay? I don't want to leave you here with the kids if you're not feeling up to it.
I'm feeling fine. It was my idea, and it's a couple days. I can do a couple days.
Okay, guys, I'm off. Have fun.
What is that?
It's Grace.
Everyone committed suicide except for her.
Repent, and you will find salvation.
Guys! Things are very uncomfortable between us, and we're stuck in a house together. What is this? The power's out. Where are my things? It makes no sense. What? I heard something.
Repent. Repent your sins.
Based on that trailer audio, Dave, I don't think it goes well.
Yes, it is. That very brief description makes it sound like, that could be a setup for, a wacky comedy or something else.
Yeah,
no,
PG family film.
It is not that. It is a really well-crafted thriller. It's definitely not a horror film in a traditional horror film sense.
Okay.
To me, it's much more of a psychological thriller. These are the directors who did Goodnight Mommy from like 5 or 6 years ago, which was a great movie that we played here at the Cedar Lee. I loved it. And this film has very similar theme, very similar tone. So if you enjoyed Goodnight Mommy, I think you'll enjoy this one. This one doesn't have the sort of like, I remember Goodnight Mommy not being gory, but definitely having elements that made you sort of like cringe a little bit. This one doesn't really have those kind of visceral sort of elements to it.
Okay.
But it is a very good psychological thriller about madness, I would say. And it's one I would highly recommend people come out and check.
The trailer gave me like Hereditary vibe, like you said, because Hereditary to me wasn't overtly gory, but really like edge of your seat, just kind of twisting up the tension bit by bit. Actually, I guess there are some pretty gory scenes though in it.
Actually, elements of it reminded me of Polanski's Repulsion. Is what I was kind of getting a vibe of that. So, maybe like Repulsion meets The Shining meets Hereditary, maybe. How about that? Meets Goodnight Mommy, of course.
I'm on board.
Because,
all right.
Yeah, it is. But it's a really, if you liked any of those movies that I've just mentioned, I can like compare it to 30 other movies too.
Right.
No, it's a good one. So it's worth your time.
A sampling of elements from other great films, but also being a film that's unique all on its own as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, before we sign off for this week, we did want to let you know there is one solo. This is a rarity. There's only one special event coming up this week here at the theater.
On Sunday, February 23rd, we are going to be showing The Color Purple as part of the Fathom Presents the TCM Classics on the big screen for its 35th anniversary. We'll be showing Steven Spielberg's Oscar-nominated but not Oscar-winning classic film, The Color Purple. It'll be playing at 1 o'clock on the 23rd at the Cedar Lee and at 5 o'clock at Chagrin Cinemas. This is, of course, the film that Whoopi Goldberg got her first Oscar nomination for, and I think it holds one of the records for one of the films that has some of the most Oscar nominations without actually ever winning one. So
was I was saying, you said Whoopi Goldberg's first? Is she? I've not kept up with her career at all.
Yeah,
She's had more than one.
She won. Yeah, she won for Ghost. So yeah.
Oh, Ghost. That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it says nominated for 11 Oscars, Color Purple. So
yeah, that was the year that I think Out of Africa, I think, won everything. That just beat it in almost every category that it was up for.
There is that theory going around that if the Oscars maybe should only reward films 5 years out, so that way people have time to like really digest that year of film and maybe make the right decisions.
Imagine if there was that sort of like the shadow Oscars, like at like a week after this year's Oscars,
right?
They do that. They have the 5-year review Oscars to see the films that actually stood the test of time, and there you would have films like Spotlight that were great, but no one is still talking about Spotlight.
I just watched Spotlight like 2 weeks ago.
Did you?
It's
a great movie.
I really do like that one.
It's hardly a film that is one of those ones that people are going to be probably talking about in 20 years from now.
Well, if you are a regular listener and are wondering where our Cedarly 3 picks are for this week, follow the links in the show notes or head on over to any of our social media accounts where we are going to be posting our picks. This week, we were inspired by The Assistant, Kitty Green's new film, her first narrative feature film. We're looking at worst jobs in film, and we're not doing it as a way to make fun of The Assistant at all. We're just like, that job sounds terrible. We're going to also look at some of those other kind of like skin crawly, just like torturous jobs. You're like, this is just a horrible situation. So worst jobs we've seen portrayed in film. Join us next Thursday when, as of right now, we'll be discussing the film Portrait of a Lady on Fire. As always, thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio and lending us your ears this week. All the music heard on the show is original music written by Grant Heineman and performed by the New Heights Jazz Ensemble, used with their permission, of course. Visit clevelandcinemas.com for correct showtimes and to purchase advance tickets. Also, there are links in the show notes. You can use those if you'd like as well. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Cedarly Theater, spelled with an R-E at the end because we're fancy like that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast, and while you're subscribing, leave us a rating and review, or better yet, tell a fellow film geek about the show. We'll see you at the movies.